Hey guys, Thomas Busby here, and this is going to be my final van construction video. I'll probably do another final video once everything's well and truly completed. I've had a bit of a test with it, but today I thought I'd run you through how I constructed my kitchen. To start with how it's attached, so I've got this giant block of wood in here, just to add a bit of a space so I could have my kitchen side wall far enough out to be wide enough. I've got 3 bolts coming through from underneath the driver's seat here in a spare battery compartment, and this is just an 18mm bit of plywood attached on for the side. So nothing in this van is attached through the floor. The floor is very, very sealed. The other side is the same, but attached from the bed frame, and that goes right through the headboard, the front framing of my bed, and the aluminium L bracket I've got going across my bed to hold it all in place. And then this here just sits over the top, which I'll need to screw in, but that's for another shelf that's going to come through underneath here. When it comes to my internal plumbing, there's a few different parts to this. So I have my hand pump, which is attached up here. That's just a hole drilled through the bench. That's got a hose clamp around it, and it comes down into my fresh water container. From there, my sink, which is fitted in, has this black tube here, which is far too long at the moment. I need to cut this down a bit, and that comes all the way around to my wastewater container. This needs to be a bit bigger, but when I put the 25-litre container on, this here sits about there, which means my water still just sits in my sink level. So this isn't good enough to get self-containment certificate at the moment. So you need to put my 25-litre container on its side, or that's probably what I'm going to have to do in the end to get self-containment. This here is my grey water vent. So this is the highest point in this ventilated grey system, and this tube comes out and along and out and up to vent my grey water. And it all came together pretty simply. It wasn't too complex, but today I've got to get all my cupboard doors, my floors, everything back in place, cutlery, pots and pans, or places to store all those, gas cooker, all in place, and I'll be usable. I'll be on the road, I'll be fully functional. I won't have self-containment yet because I haven't paid for that certificate, but the van will be functional. For my kitchen floor, I wanted this raised up a little bit so I could have a kick space underneath, just to get my toes underneath so I could stand that a little bit closer to my bench top. This also let me have something around my water bottles, my grey water bottle, just to hold everything in place while driving around. To hold the kick space stand and like some of the vertical bits underneath that kitchen subfloor, I use these aluminium just L brackets, which I cut to about this size, screwed some holes into it, and then screwed them into place. These are a little bit flexible, but good just to hold bits and pieces in place. I could have just got some other brackets, but I had this around and this was really easy to use. So for my kitchen face, I thought I'd go into a little bit more detail about this, as this was a far bigger part. For the main face of it, it was just one sheet of ply that I spent a while measuring and cutting to the right shape to fit in. As far as then the holes inside for it, these were just carefully planned out, marked and cut with a jigsaw. I drilled the hole first and then cut the squares out of it. I didn't learn this until afterwards, but I think if you put some masking tape down along where you plan to cut, that should help prevent like jagged edges. Like I said, I didn't learn this till afterwards, so a few of my cupboards do have some rougher edges that I've had to sand down. It doesn't bother me too much, and I managed to put them at the bottom, but I couldn't put them on the inside because I wanted the same kind of style face of plywood facing out for every single door. I didn't want them to look too different in colour. I could have also gone for 18mm plywood for the front. The reason that would have been, I think, a good idea is because my hinges, while I could have brought smaller screws, I couldn't find any easily, and I didn't want any holes punching through to the front of my cupboard doors. So I didn't want any little drill holes, screw holes punching through. And there's maybe a little dimple just there, but overall it's not visible. It's a very clean, finished look. And if I'd gone 18mm, I would have had a bit bigger room to play to screw into. Where at the moment, just to get around the 12mm ply being so thin, I had to put little washers underneath and on the doors of my hinges just to add that little bit more of a space. It means when I close them up, there's a bit bigger of a gap there, but when this is all in place, I can't see it. Another small error I made is for my magnetic latches, there's just a metal plate on here and then a latch inside there. 2 of them are sweet, but then one of them I got was actually like 5mm shorter than the other. It was wider, it was a more powerful latch, and I thought that would have been better, but I didn't realise until later on that when I went to try and attach it onto the face of my cupboards on inside the doors there, because this is 12mm plywood, there's not a lot of room for error for screwing into. So once again, maybe the face of this as 18mm plywood would have just had that bit more room to attach things to. I got around at the end by just screwing in a block of wood, gluing in a block of wood and screwing into that, but it was still a little bit fiddly and not as easy as it could have been. For the back, first of all, I cut these vertical bits and had them fit into between my floor and my bench top, and I did that for all three of these, and they are a tight, firm fit. And then, just with fiddling, is I marked out my cupboard door holes after I had where these were going to be. This one here is just to support my shelf that's going through there, and I just wanted a little bit of a divider, so I've got my gas cooker going in just between here, and I don't need to, and I don't want to be able to access that from the inside while cooking. It's only going to be available to grab from outside, because I'm never going to cook inside because I don't want to kill myself. I have got little bits of like gaps in between here, once again, for just the vertical supports for my bench. So it was all quite a bit of planning, but this now should fit in like Lego, and I've just got to screw it all into place. Actually, before I do that, I might pre-drill some holes in the sides of these, just so it all screws in a bit easier. Now I'm going to pre-screw in the screws for these, just so I don't have to do as much work once it's awkwardly in place. I had to spin the van around because it was getting a bit too hot. But this is my cutlery drawer. For this here, it is literally just 2 bits of wood screwed in, and I've cut angles into these, so when I'm sliding it in from either end, it fits in easy. And that's a relatively firm fit, but not too tight. I haven't got a stopper on this, so it can completely slide out one way or the other. But the reason I've got it like that is because I want to be able to access my kitchen and use this from both sides, whether I've got that door open and I'm cooking outside, or I'm using it on inside. So it just slides in and out and grips a little bit. We'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if that's perfect, but I'm cheap and it did the job. And then just to stop that drawer from warping if it does any extra, I've just got these blocks here, nothing fancy, that are just gonna fit in there just to hold it down in the corners. I'm never gonna see them. Simple solution. Right, now for my kitchen face. Boom, and aside from the handles, that's looking real tidy. Now I'll just screw it in, attach handles to it, add my rubbish bin, and my kitchen's nearly done. I say nearly done, but I forgot to put up my 2 internal walls. I'll put them in now. And then finally for my cupboard handles, I'm using this. Once again, nothing too fancy, it's just a bit of leather that's been cut to shape with a bit of a hole in it. Pre-drill a hole, attach that through there, and it's a really basic handle. I know this looks like a little bit of a cheap out, but I like the leather kind of theme. I've got it around the van in a few other places, and because Mum's so good with leather, these cost me nothing to do. One other thing I've still got to track down, which won't be in today's video, is a tea towel rack, which I'll attach along there to have a tea towel hanging down, but we'll get these in and I might be nearly done. So I've got these with a little bit of a loop in them just so they naturally fold out a little bit so they're easy to grab. But other than that, I think that's kitchen done. Thank you so much for following along. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments below. But otherwise, until next time, I'll catch you next time.